All right, and we are here with just eight drivers. Eight drivers for this Portugal Grand Prix sprint weekend. I believe we have another couple of drivers who are supposed to join us today, but a very small grid for the race today. We are still here. Let me check my voice. Yeah, okay. We are all good. Sound is all good. But yes, like I said, we're still here racing sprint weekend here in Portugal. We'll start off with the short qualifying session. Gonna have to check who is on the grid. Again, we only have 8 drivers as we start. One and only short qualifying session here. Let me get my bearings together. Enable everything that I need to enable. And let's see who will come out on the track first. Don't see anybody out there yet. No movement in the garages that I'm seeing. Okay, no, we're seeing some movement in the Red Bull garage. I'm seeing Strielka. And it looks like someone a little bit further down the grid. Maybe one of the Mercedes here is heading out on the track. Looks like this is probably K5. And it is. So K5 will be our first driver out on track today. I will say the one good thing about there being only 8 drivers, it'll be a little bit easier to keep track of things here in the qualifying. It can get a little crazy when you have 20 guys out there trying to put in a lap at the same time. So here we are, K5 leading the charge. Again, Strielka, one of 2 Red Bulls, the only team with 2 drivers today, the Red Bull team. Strielka's the first one out on the track. Got Big Melt right behind him. As well as the Alpine Effexin. Looks like Robot's just coming out of the pits as well. So right now we just have... Oh, I'm sorry, there are 2 Haas's as well. So the Haas's are still in the pit lane. We're watching Wide Vader leave. Ram, and then the other Red Bull of Mars is in the pits as well. But most drivers out on the track. And let's look back to K5. Again, who looks like he will be putting in our first lap time of the race. Just checking on driver standings. After Monza, so we're still missing the standings from the last race, so don't want to comment too much on those numbers. But K5 is one of your championship leaders. I believe he is in third or fourth place at the moment as he's coming across the line to start his first lap. Let's see if we can join him on board. Very clean to the first couple of turns. Your first hard braking section. Very tricky uphill left. Place so you might see a lot of drivers spin out today. K5 does a good job getting through there. Another hard braking zone, and another uphill. Lots of elevation changes here, especially under braking. Cause a lot of tricky areas to get traction. Causes a lot of spins. K5 looks like he's putting in a pretty good lap so far. I do see a yellow flag out there. I'm not sure if that's just the drivers queuing up or if somebody had a spin. I think somebody had a spin though. Hard to tell. Could have been one of the Haas's on their out left. Yeah, it might have been Bram just getting out of the way. I think it's somebody. So it's K5. Let's see. K5 is coming around one of the last corners. Again, uphill to the start-finish line. Let's see where he comes across. The first time of the day is a 16.5. A very good time. Especially for the first lap on the board. I think that was good enough for pole in D3 yesterday. At least pretty close to it. As the Alpine Effexin will be the second to come across the line. He comes across with a 17.5. A full second behind K5. And now we have Strielka coming across the line. 16.4. So Strielka puts himself just about a tenth above K5 for pole position. Then we see Robot coming across the line at 17.7. So he's 4th out of 4 drivers so far. Big Melt, he's going to abort his lap. He might have had a... Yeah, it looked like he track track something. And as we look over to Robot, Robot is in the gravel of Sector 1. Again, that was after his fast lap, though, so doesn't really affect anything for him other than just taking a little bit longer to get into the pits. But I think he's going to want to make sure he doesn't get in the way of Bram here. Bram's got a lot of traffic. He's got cars too wide as he goes into this turn. I don't think this Aston sees him here. The Aston a Robot. Oh, that's definitely some impeding from Robot there. I think that one's going to be looked at after. I'm not sure that Robot, again, who had finished his lap, then found his way into the gravel pits. Looked like he impeded Bram a little bit there. I'm not sure how much that's going to affect Bram's time. But it definitely will, I would imagine. I don't think Morris put in a lap yet. It's him and Big Milt, who don't have times on the board yet. We saw Big Milt invalidated his lap. Not sure what's going on with Mars. He might just be waiting to do his lap. As Bram comes across the line, looks like very good, and it is, even with that impeding, or what we thought was an impediment, still comes across the line with a provisional pole time of 16.3, a very good lap from Bram. And the Haas is looking pretty strong right now, in first and fourth place. But with these being just the first laps on the board, I'm thinking the pole time is going to be right around 16 flat. So we'll see if the drivers can, in fact, get something like that done. So again, Big Melt is back out on the track. They're invalidating his first time around. It looks like Mars maybe is out. Yep, Mars is out on the track for also his first hot lap attempt. And Bram's the only other driver out there right now, and he's on his in-lap. And Bram sitting at a provisional pole position, but we still have over 11 minutes to go here in Q1, which will be the only qualifying session today again, as we have a sprint weekend ahead of us here. Just like we do in real life, the Miami Grand Prix, the sprint weekend all around. Alright, so as we see Big Melt, see if we can go on board with him as he starts his second attempt at a fast lap. Again, he invalidated the first time. I did not see his lap, so I'm not sure where on the track he invalidated. But there's definitely a couple spots that are prone to people invalidating. This is not the easiest track to stay within the track limits. And let's see if Big Mel can here. Again, that very tricky up-hand left into the long straight. He does a pretty good job of it there. Another hard braking zone. Downhill. And back uphill. Again, these elevation changes at this track is what makes it such a tough track for people to race at. And that's a pretty good example of it there as he's sliding around on the uphill right through Sector 2. And we do have another driver who has joined the grid. Comic has now hopped in his car, the Alfa Romeo. From my experience as commentator and watching these D2 races, Comic's a pretty good driver, so although he's missed the first few minutes, I think he'll have a pretty good chance of still putting himself in a good qualifying spot this sprint race. But let's see. Again, as Big Mel comes across the line, let's see where he comes in. It's not going to be in the 116s, it's going to be in the 117s. A 17-2 puts him right in the middle of the grid. 5th place, right behind Wyatt Vader and in front of Fexen in the Alpine. I'm not sure. Mars is the only other person I believe on a hot lap at the moment. Oh, he invalidated as well. I'm looking at his track, so he invalidated. I was wondering why it looked like he was going a little bit slow through there. It looks like Robot will be the next person to start their lap. Maybe Fexen is on one right now. No, hot lap. Okay. Trying to catch up. We got multiple people on the track right now, but not everybody doing a hot lap. Some people on their in laps, some people on their out laps. Like Robot is one of those who is on a fast lap. I can check. Let's see. Alright, so another invalidation for Big Melt. Oh, I'm sorry. That's not an invalidation. He's on his in-lap. Doesn't matter. Okay. Very sorry, very sorry. I'm all over the place here. So, Mars and Comic are the two that don't have a lap on the board. Bexon is starting his hot lap, his second attempt. We go on board with him here. I did see a yellow in Sector 1, but it looked like that might have just been Robot clearing the way for a Red Bull behind him. I think Fexon is going to be the next person we see with a lap time on the board. We're going to start seeing sometimes after that, though. Looks like we have several people on hot laps. Again, we're going to start with Fexon here. Let's see what he can do. He's currently sitting here in 7th place. Oh, he's got a lot of work to do, over a second, separating him and Bram for pole position. As Fexon comes around, 15th and final corner, and comes across the line at a 16.9. So he does get in the top 5. He does get in the 116s. I'm not sure if he's going to have another time for another lap. But we will see. Wide Vader, it looks like another invalidation, so we're seeing a whole lot of invalidations out there. Mars is on an outlap. He's got Robot right behind him. So a few drivers who I think are starting their hot lap here. This is Bram, coming across the line, and it is a 16-1. Again, improves on his own provisional pole position. He's now 3/10 up on Strielka for that pole position. It was K5 we saw go out first. You know, the first person to put himself in provisional pole. Then we saw Strielka do it. But now Bram, improving on his own best time of a 16.3, improves up to a 16.1. Let's see if there's anyone else on the track. It looks like we do have a Red Bull. Yes, the Red Bull of Mars, who is on a hot lap. There's another driver who we saw invalidated his first attempt. Let's see what he can do here. Again, we have 15 corners here in Portugal. Just 4 corners in this final sector that Mars is entering now. As he comes to the final straight, let's see. It looks like a pretty good time. Let's see if he can finish in the 116s. He can. It's a 16.9. Again, puts him just ahead of Fexon for 4th. That's a pretty good first attempt there. Well, I should say second because of his invalidation, but still a very good lap there from Mars. And I believe it is his teammate, Strielka, who's just ahead of his first lap. 1,000th of a second up after the first sector. But he's going to need 3/10 on his best lap to improve and get up to Bram's spot. But he's not going to, as he loses it. Loses on that very tricky uphand right. I keep forgetting what turn that is. Shoot, what number is that? But that turn sucks. I think we all hate that turn. I think it's 8. Or 7. Either way, that turn stinks. Alright. So Strielka has to abandon his lap. I think it's Wide Vader who we'll see put up a time next. So let's watch Wide Vader's lap. We're on board with him. We go through this tricky part of Sector 2, the part that we just saw Strielka go off. Pretty clean. Two tenths up on his best time, so he's looking like he's going to be in the 116s as long as he does a good job of holding on here. You know, it's not going to be enough to get him in the top three, but he could challenge Mars for 4th place here. So let's see as he comes around the last corner and up towards the finish line, where Wide Vader will put himself. He'll put himself at a 116.7. Yes, it is good enough to beat Mars by 2 tenths. So Wide Vader, continuing what's been a very good start to this weekend for the Haas team as they sit currently in 1st and 4th place. And it is Comic right now, who is the only driver, again, just joined the grid a little bit towards the end of this session here. He is the only driver that we have not seen put in a time. I don't think I've seen him attempt a lap either. I didn't see any invalidations or anything, so I think this will be his first and only attempt to put in a time, as we just have under 2 minutes left here in qualifying in this sprint race weekend. So let's see. I believe K5 will be the first person to cross the line for his last attempt at a hot lap. So K5 will start our last round of hot laps. K5 currently sitting 4 tenths off of pole, behind Bram, who does look like he's going out for another lap. Third and final attempt. Again, I think all the yellows that we're seeing on track right now are just people queuing up, getting ready for, trying to create that separation for them in their hot lap. Looks like the Red Bull doing a good job of staying out of K5's way. And we have seen it in impeding incident already in this qualifying, but it hasn't really affected the driver who was affected, Bram, as he is still sitting in a pole position. But K5, through 2 sectors, a 10th up on his time, so it might be good enough to get past Strielka, but it doesn't look like it's going to be in the ballpark of Bram's best lap time. But he's got a couple last corners to try to make up for it. So let's see, as he comes around, and Fexen is DNF. Fexen is maybe crashed out or maybe just retired on track. I'm not sure. As K5 does get by Strielka, a 16.2, but again, he's a little bit off of Bram. As Strielka starts his lap, that was Strielka. Mars comes across, so Mars is done. Mars is in 5th. He does not get to do another lap. Mars is in 5th place for the sprint. I think it is the Haas's that are coming across the line next of Bram, and Bram is improving on his time. So Bram, who is already at a provisional pole position with his 16.1, is trying to be the first and only driver to get a time in the 115s, and he will do so at 15.907. 2.5 tenths up on his best lap. And a dominating performance from Bram today. At least for this qualifying session. 3 tenths up on any other driver on the grid. A really good job for him today. I'm not sure there's anyone else on track that's going to be putting in a lap. Strielka is. Okay, so let's see where Strielka is. I did not see if he was up on his lap heading into this. But he's going to improve. He's going to have to improve, I should say, by about a half a second if he wants to get up to Bram. That's not going to be easy to do. They got Comic right behind him. So let's see where Strielka comes across the line at a 5th. No, a 16.3. So just barely improves on his time. It's not enough. Comic does not put in a time. I don't know if he didn't cross a line enough in time, or maybe he invalidated. I'm not sure. But he does not get a chance to put in a time. He will start ninth. And it looks like we have our grid. It looks like everybody is either in the pits, retired, or finished their lap. So Bram will start your sprint race in first, followed by K5, Strielka, and Big Melt. I did not see the rest of the grid, but that is your first four. Again, Bram in the Haas, a very dominant qualifying performance. So we have Bram, K5, Strielka, Big Melt, Wide Vader, Mars, Fexen, Robot, and Comic. As we get ready again to start our sprint race, followed by the feature race, the Grand Prix. So I believe we will have an 11 lap sprint race followed by a 33 lap Grand Prix. So there are points to play for. 8 drivers will get points here in the sprint. So only 1 driver, assuming that everyone finishes the race at least. Only 1 driver will be out of the points when this race is all said and done. Okay, so let me just post. So the initial qualifying results have been posted. A 15.9 for Bram, almost 4/10 above anyone else on the grid. So Bram has got to be your favorite today. And again, a good qualifying session for the Haas's, who finished 1st and 5th. Pretty good for the Red Bulls as well. Those are the 2 teams that have both drivers on the grid today. The Red Bulls finished 3rd and 6th. And at K5, starting 2nd, sandwiched between that Haas and the Red Bull. Oh, check the chat. Let's see when we expect the sprint race to start today. Oh, sorry, man. This coffee is making me burp. Alright. So, anyway, we're getting ready for the sprint race to start. It looks like we are readying up at 28 after. So, about 1 minute from now. Just about a minute from now, we will get our sprint race to begin. Brandon K5 on the top row. Be interesting to see who gets a better start and puts himself in a good position off the start to win this race. We should be getting started pretty much any moment here. Waiting at the moment for it to begin. Usually happens pretty quick. We're just gonna. Yep, and here it is. Jump right over to the grid, and we have 5 lights, and we are off for the Portugal sprint race. A little bit of a lag there on stream, but a great start for Bram. Not a good start for K5. Looks like K5 has already dropped 2 or 3 spots right off the start. And it's Wide Vader who is the beneficiary of that. Wide Vader up a couple spots. All right, let's get everything under control here. Let's see if anybody. Let's see the position changes off the start. So it's Big Mel who's the big loser off the start. He's dropped 5 spots and he's already pretty far behind Robot. So it looked like he might have spun out or something. It's K5 who's down 2 spots, and again Wide Vader who's up 2. A very good start again for this Haas team, who's had a really good start to the weekend. All right, let's take a look at the tire compounds. We only have 3 of the 9 drivers on mediums for this sprint race. All other 8 drivers have decided to go for the softs, including your 4 leaders. So Bram, followed by Strielka and Wide Vader. Yeah. So a pretty clean start for everyone, I think, besides Big Melt. And again, K5, who had a bit of a slow start, I think from the lights. Maybe he was just cut off a little bit by a quick start. I'm not sure. But Bram, after the first lap, was, again, your leading driver. But Strielka is going to... He almost gave him a good run for his money on the inside there at turn 1 without DRS. He caught me off guard. I wasn't really ready for him to make a move right away, but... He did use a decent amount of battery to try to make that move. He's already at 70%. Again, possible race strategies is just softer medium to the end, under the assumption that there won't be a safety car. As we see Big Melt go into the pits. I don't know if did Big Melt suffer some wing damage. I'm not sure, but with the amount of time it looked like he spent in the pits, there probably was a wing change. Let's see. Looks like it's a tough going for those medium runners right now, as Mars has dropped another spot behind Fexen with that Alpine. I feel like usually we see Mars ahead of guys like Fexen, but not today. Again, maybe those mediums were not the right call. They do seem to be struggling a bit on them, as Comic is right behind Mars now too, so maybe that wasn't the right call, those mediums. We'll find out. I don't know if DRS is activated this lap. I think we might have one more lap before that. Not a very long DRS zone here to make that overtake, but it is one of the biggest spots to do it, and I think Strielka is going to try to make a move this next lap. He can stay in the DRS of Bram, but not a good move for him there. Looked like he definitely lost a little bit of time, but these top 4 drivers are definitely separating themselves from the rest of the pack. They look like they're definitely your 4 contenders for a race win today. No disrespect to anyone else on the grid, but that just looks to be how it's shaping out right at the moment. Of course, a safety car or some kind of other incident could change things, but right now it is those 4, the 2 Haas's of Bram and Wide Vader, as well as the Red Bull S Strielka and Mercedes of K5, who are competing for these podium positions. All stuck in a bit of a DRS train without there even being DRS yet. But again, that will be activated, I believe, on this lap. So it's only going to make that gap bigger between these first 4 drivers and the rest of the grid. Really want to stick on with Strielka here, but it's about 6/10 back. I think that's too far to make a move here. And it is. As strong as that DRS is, and as strong as that battery usage, it's only down to 36. It's just not enough to get him past Bram yet. I say Wide Vader is using a lot of battery too, so we're seeing a lot of battery usage right now from Wide Vader and Strielka. K5 is doing a much better job of managing his. Maybe it's something he can use to his advantage as we enter the later stages of this sprint race. It is now Mars. I didn't see what happened there, but it looks like Fexen in that slow braking turn, corner I should say, probably had a bit of an incident. Lost traction a bit as he has now dropped 2 spots from when we were last on board with him. Mars and Comic have gotten by. So Comic is up to 6th place from his start in 9th. And he wasn't able to get a time on the board in qualifying. And it's Mars now up to 5th. And now Fexen has a 3-second penalty as well. So we're starting to see Fexen drop down the grid, and even more so with that 3-second penalty. Robot right now is the only driver behind him, but with that penalty, it would be Fexen sitting in 8th. So let's look. Again, Strielka a little bit closer to Bram, but again, I don't think it's going to be enough. This isn't a very long DRS zone here. And with a bit of a tight right-hander, it's hard to get the inside line there. Again, he's unable to do it. All these drivers sitting about 3/10 behind each other. Pretty massive gap of about 2.5 seconds to the closest driver behind them with Mars. That's been a good day for the Haas and the Red Bulls. Let's see if they can keep that on. We're about halfway through this sprint race, and again, we have the 33-lap Grand Prix after this, but another 6 laps to go in this sprint race. Haven't seen a lot of position changes since the start. Just kind of the nature of this track. It's not the easiest place to overtake. But it's been Bram from the start, leading the way and continuing to do so now. But Strielka is getting about a 10th closer a lap. And eventually that should be enough for him to get by Bram on one of these runs down the straight. But Bram has a lot of battery to use to his defense. He sits about a half a second in front of Strielka, who again, with a pretty good exit out of turn 15, tries to make a run down the straight. Almost right on the back of the gearbox of Bram, but again, not close enough to make a move. Marked by him to not be reckless into that corner, and we now see Comic, who has a 3-second penalty. Let's look what's going on here. Comic made a move past Mars, it looked like, and in the process of doing so, I think got that 3-second penalty. So it's Mars who's now in the middle of those 2 cars with penalties. I think they're both 3-second penalties. Yes, so they're both 3-second penalties. Robots, it would be good for him to try to make up a little ground over these last few laps to see if he can use those penalties to his advantage. Maybe get a couple spots on his own. See? Again, we have Mars in the middle of Fexen and Comic here. It's now Wide Vader who's fallen behind. Again, we go away from the top 4. Another incident that we missed. It looked like Wide Vader spun out, and now he's fallen out of those podium positions and out of the DRS as well. So now it's K5 who sits behind Strielka for 3rd place. And if it wasn't for the penalty that Comic had, I'd say he has a good chance at 4th place as well, but it's not going to be easy with that being the case. Alright, so let's look at what we got going here. Again, K5 just 2/10 now behind Strielka, who has fallen a good amount of time behind Bram. So Bram, I don't know if Bram knows this. I don't know if so Bram either dumped all of his battery with the intention of just leaving Strielka in the dust, or he left it on, but he's all the way down now to 5% battery. So he's got like no battery now, but he did use it to his, if it wasn't on purpose, it did work out because he's almost like a 1.5 seconds now in front of Strielka. Yeah, he went from 80 to now 10. Again, you can harvest a little bit of battery here, easier than you can on other tracks, but that was still a pretty heavy dump on that one lap. So we've seen some changes up towards the top of the grid here. It's now even Mars has gotten past Comic again. I said that this is not a track that we see a lot of overtakes, but every time I look away from one of these drivers, they are making an overtake. Just seem to be watching the wrong guy at the wrong time. But it's K5 who makes a move on Strielka, and K5, can he make it stick? He can. So K5 has now moved to the 2nd. We did catch that overtake. We did catch that one in time. But now it's Strielka who's surprisingly dropping down the grid. I have to say, I did not expect to see this. Even the gap now that's forming between him and K5 already almost close to a second. So I don't know what's going on with Strielka. I don't think there's any damage. I don't think there's anything like that. He just might be struggling on these softer tires as they wear down. So let's see. One of our closer gaps now. It's like, yeah, it's Mars who has found a way to recover from a slow start on those mediums. Maybe they're getting, you know, a little bit stronger compared to the softs. As we're now 8 laps in here. He's making moves on Wide Vader in the Haas. It definitely looks like those mediums are getting stronger and stronger by the lap. And that those softs might be wearing a little bit more than we expected. He's going to be within DRS, so he's going to be able to make up even more ground. On Wide Vader, who doesn't have DRS, he's got a 2-second gap for any car in front of him. Things are getting very interesting here. Again, with this being the sprint race, only one driver, unfortunately, that looks like it's going to be Big Melt, is going to be out of the points. Everyone else will get at least 1 point today. Even Robot, who's had a pretty lonely race in the back of the grid here. You see him driving over the grass and gravel. Section and Comic sitting 6th and 7th respectively with penalties. Now Strielka has gotten a 3-second penalty. So that's going to be huge for him. And not in a good way, because he's got Wide Vader and Mars within that 3-second gap. And they don't have penalties. So Strielka is really struggling these last couple laps. But he has just 2 laps to go, so can he hold on? And at least finish in a 5th place. And it looks like Big Melt again is in the off the track, causing a yellow, but no safety car or anything. He's back to go. Good to go, I should say. Pram dominating today. Over 2 seconds in front of K5 in second. And followed by Strielka, followed by Wide Vader. But Strielka's going to have to start to pick the pace up a little bit these last 2 laps if he wants to avoid dropping down a couple different spots here. Get a pretty big 3-second penalty. Let's see the penalties. Again, 3 drivers with a 3-second penalty. It's going to be pretty heavily affecting all of them. Not a lot of position changes looking at things right now, but the penalties will change that. And Comic up 3 spots, but that actually might not change because of the penalty situation. It's really just going to be Strielka who I think drops 2 spots here. If everything stays the same. And I have to say, but right now, my 3 drivers of the day, again, this is very early on, we haven't even finished the sprint race, probably Bram, K5, and Mars. I think Mars has done a very good job of bouncing back from a slow start in this sprint race. And he's pushing for a podium position as it stands. Very interested to see if he can get a good exit here as we start our last lap. And Big Melt, alright, that's not really relevant. This Big Melt's so far behind. And Mars does put himself into a podium position. He gets past Wide Vader. And Wide Vader gets a 3-second penalties. Okay, so as long as Mars can stay on the track and keep things clean, Mars is going to find himself... Oh, but he has a little bit of a rear... He lost the rear a little bit there, but he had a good recovery. Wide Vader right behind him. But with that 3-second, it really doesn't do him any good to get aggressive with Mars. He's probably just better off holding on to his spot. Same for Mars. Too much pushing on Strielka here is really not going to do him any good. And he's sandwiched around a bunch of drivers with 3-second penalties. And if this sprint race shows you anything, that we're going to see a lot of penalties in our feature race, and that just might be a huge factor in our final grid positions. Oh, and another person who's off. It's Strielka again, with another incident from Strielka, and we see him touch wheels with Wide Vader, the Haas. Who can come across the line first, folks? This is huge. Strielka with another moment, losing his car in the grip at a very unideal moment. And he might lose another spot or 2 because of that. So Mars, already in 3rd place. He's going to hold on to that. And it is Wide Vader who comes across in 4th, just in front of Strielka. Oh, Strielka lost 4th place by 3 thousandths of a second. Strielka, who again showed great pace in the qualifying session, has multiple incidents in the last few laps. Multiple small incidents, including one in the last couple of turns that drop him 2 extra spots. And he falls behind Wide Vader, even with Wide Vader getting that penalty at the end. It looked like dropping those 2 spots was going to be inevitable for Strielka, but then when Wide Vader got a penalty of his own, it looked like Strielka would be able to hold on to 4th, but he can't. And Comic almost made a move on him as well for 5th. So again, it is Mars who finishes in 3rd. And I hate that this is always it always ends up being this way, but right now my top 3 drivers are our top 3 drivers on the grid. Yeah, and driver of the day is Mars. Great job by him. Again, taking advantage of Strielka's mistake at the end. So it is Bram winning this race. He finished on pole, and now he wins this race. The sprint race, followed by K5 and Mars, Wide Vader, and Strielka. Comic, Vexen, Robot, and Big Melt. Big Melt is the only driver today to not grab a point in this sprint race. As we get ready, I'm going to step away for a moment, but we are going to get ready for our 33 lap feature race. Alright, so we're getting ready for our race again, our Grand Prix. It is tough to predict anyone but Bram to win this race. He's just been so far ahead of everyone else pace-wise. I'd like to throw in the likes of K5 and Mars, maybe even Comic with the pace that he has shown, but I don't know. It's just Bram. Bram seems to be so much faster than anyone else on the grid right now, so the only person that I could say that I think is really going to win this race is Bram, but let's see. We have 33 laps to prove me otherwise. Strielka always has a ton of pace as well, but for whatever reason always seems to end up in some kind of incident during these races that causes him to DNF or drop towards the back of the grid, but he has plenty of pace, just see if he can put it all together. Get just 9 drivers for our race here today. Been a tough weekend for us to get everybody. Fuck. Dog just beat me. I didn't even know you were in here until I just smelt that. That stinks. I didn't even know you were in here. Alright, so here we are. We are ready to start here. 5 lights and away we go. Again, another great start for Bram and another slow start for K5. He just can't get these starts right. K5 drops another couple of spots off the start. Grabs a good inside line, but it's not going to be enough. Holy cow, Bram is like Max Verstappen out there, grabbing a second lead just 2 turns into this race. Oh my gosh, Bram is just on another level. He really is. Alright, let's look at our... Alright, let's look at our tires. So everyone starts on the mediums, I should say, with the exception of Robot, who is starting on the softs. And K5 has already dropped to 5th place from 2nd. I don't know what's going on with K5 here, but his starts have been downright terrible, I'll be honest. I don't know what's going on. But his start in the sprint race and his start here today in the Grand Prix have just been awful. As Bram has put himself a 2.5 in front of Mars. In true Max Verstappen form. It is Mars who's all the way up to 2nd. Mars is having a really good race. He's a very consistent driver. We don't see him win a ton of races, but we always see him put up a lot of points. He's a very consistent driver who has just suffered some tough luck this season. Been a first-hand witness of that tough luck myself. Alright, so let's see. K5, again, showing plenty of pace. He has great recovery speed and great race pace, but just has put himself in terrible positions off the start. Both times so far. And Robot's still sitting in 8th despite being on those softs, so early on at least, the soft tire strategy for Robot is not working, and he has now put Fex in. He now brakes late and puts Fex in off track. Just not a great incident there from Robot. Late on the brakes. We've seen incidents there before, but a little sloppy there. A little late on the brakes. That's unfortunate. I don't know if he suffered any damage, any wing damage, but either way, he put Fex in out. That's for sure. Big melt of beneficiary of that. Moves up 2 spots. But again, bit of an incident there from the Aston and the Alpine. I don't think the Alpine will be too happy about that one, but it did look like a genuine mistake. It is a tough braking zone, especially going downhill there. It's not the first driver we've seen make that mistake, that is for sure. It looks like he might be letting Robot's into the pit, so Robot must have had some wing damage from that. I think I was incorrect in saying he didn't. Let's check. Let's watch as he comes into the pits here, what we see. I don't see a wing change. No, there is no wing change, so an interesting pit, and he's gone on the hards. Okay, so he's gonna go on the hards for 30 laps? I'm not sure what's going on with the Aston there, but let's return back towards the front of the grid. We'll check back in on that later. We watch a wide evader here. The Haas and Red Bull teams taking advantage of the lack of drivers on the grid today, taking up those first 4 spots. At the moment, Bram, again, I said it earlier, I'll say it again now, I'm sure you'll hear me say it again. It's just on another level from every other driver right now, putting himself way ahead. 2.5 seconds. It's 3 laps into this race, and now we've seen Robot with a 3-second time penalty as well. So it's all going wrong for Robot. We saw him spin the Alpine. We saw him pit for hards with 30 laps to go, and now we've seen him get a penalty. I'm watching the wrong thing. Missing the overtake with Wide Vader. I apologize. But Wide Vader has now put himself into 2nd above Mars, so a strong weekend for Haas continues. They have the top 2 positions as it stands. But I don't think anyone here is gonna, let that position go easy. K5 and Strielka. Mars 2 have plenty of pace to make a push for P2. It is K5 who is sitting in the back of this DRS train, these 4 drivers. Comic is trying his best to reach up, get up to them, but still about a second and a half behind. See if anybody can utilize DRS as we come down the straight. It's gonna be tough. Definitely a bit of a DRS train going on here. No positions changed. Whoever the front car is gonna have a tough time holding off those ones behind them. Right now it's Wide Vader. So not much changing. Comic is, yeah, Comic's falling further behind, not being part of that DRS train. And it's going to be hard for him to make up otherwise. We're looking on board with Mars here. A little too far back, I think, to make a move, but let's see. Yeah, just a bit too far back, probably about a good 10th. But Wide Vader's definitely using a good amount of battery to hold him off. So we see a 3-second for Comic. Like to see those penalties, those time corner cutting penalties start to come in. We started to see them coming around lap 8 of the sprint. So, see what happens here. We're starting to see a couple come in already. Ram is just on another planet, by himself, just kind of calmly racing around. He's got nothing to worry about at the moment. 3.5 seconds in front of these other 4 cars. Another 3-second for Robot, so he's got a 6-second penalty. Add to his time at the end of the race. And Mars is a lot closer now to Wide Vader. Is it close enough to make a move? I think it is. Let's see. Alright, so Mark's going to make the move on the inside. He just gets past Wide Vader and he does. Alright, great move. They're still side by side though. Wide Vader's not ready to give it up. But Mars keeps it in front. It makes the move stick. Almost loses the rear end as Wide Vader. It's almost enough to let Strielka by. Wow, great wheel-to-wheel action here between Strielka. I should say Wide Vader and Mars. And now Wide Vader back ahead. Wow, those two went back and forth through those 3 turns. This is obviously only helping Bram more and more. It's now 4.5 seconds ahead. As these cars are all battling each other and losing valuable time in the process, but trying to battle for valuable positions as well. This is going to be a great battle, I think, now, between these 4 cars for these last 2 podium positions. And again, let's go on board. As we go through turn 14, through turn 15, and onto the start-finish straight. It's Mars now just 2/10 behind Wide Vader, and he uses a little bit more battery to get around him. Wide Vader's going to have to start harvesting a lot more. Strielka trying to make a last-minute push as well. No, and Strielka's off again. We said it earlier. We have seen this happen with Strielka many times. Shows plenty of pace, but always ends up in some kind of incident that forces him off. And we've seen it again now. Tried to get a little too aggressive, following Mars and making a move past Wide Vader, and it just does not work out. He spins, and he is now all the way back into 8th place. Oh, that is a huge mistake from Strielka, who continues to show a ton of pace and potential, but just can't seem to put it all together for the race. But this is such a tricky track. Even when we go back on board with Wide Vader here, we see both him and Mars struggling for traction. Everyone's struggling a little bit on this track now. Especially as those tires continue to wear. Just far from the easiest place. Keep your car moving in the right direction. But we have K5 now, quietly sitting behind Wide Vader as well. Yes, Wide Vader, I should say. Almost said Mars. Ooh, almost touches the back of the Haas there. I don't think he did. Yeah, such a tricky turn. We see Wide Vader struggle a little bit. Deep braking zone. They're gonna go wheel to wheel again, I think. No, Mars just stays ahead. That's a great perspective here from K5 watching this battle between Wide Vader and Mars. These are the same turns we saw them battle in flip-flop positions just a couple laps ago. Doing it again now. These are definitely a group of cars that we want to stay with. There's a pretty big gap between everyone else right now. The only other car that I see pretty close to another one right now is Fexen. Third time penalty for Robot, so Robot continues to bury himself towards the back of the grid. But yeah, the only other car I see near anyone is Fexen. And to be honest, the battle for 6th and 7th is not what's really catching our attention right now. It is this battle for 3rd. I should say 2nd, 3rd, and 4th between Mars, Wide Vader, and K5. It's now Mars leading the pack, so he will not have the battery. And that extra push, the DRS, that the Haas of Wide Vader behind him has. A late move by Wide Vader. Can he make it stick? He can. But it's not going to be enough. Mars gets back ahead. Mars and Wide Vader again battling wheel to wheel. Might be best to just keep watching from K5's perspective. Keep trying to flip-flop between Wide Vader and Mars. It's hard to do so. It's hard to tell who's ahead. They keep switching. But it is Mars who stays ahead for the time being. We're only a third of the way through this race here. So we still have plenty to go. Plenty of strategies still to see as well. I mean, I still think we're going to see medium to soft. Seems to be the move. Strielka has gone into the pits for hards. Still in front of Robot, who also has a 9-second penalty, so Robot's in a tough position right now. 9 seconds and 4 seconds behind anyone else, and 9 seconds of penalties on top of that. Tough spot for him, but these things happen. Comic quietly. He has a 3-second penalty, but he's quietly making some moves on people as well. Getting closer and closer. Let's watch Wide Vader. Wide Vader making that move on Mars. Pretty easy for him to get by. Much easier than it was the last couple laps. Mars had a look on the inside, but decided not to go for it. But it looked like Wide Vader went a little wide. The second DRS zone, Mars makes a move towards the inside. Cuts that corner pretty strong, maybe a little bit of contact. And we have Big Melt off. I believe we have Big Melt, the Ferrari, who is off. I'm seeing a yellow flag in Sector 2. Is that any damage? Any damage to that Ferrari? No, the wing looks okay. So it might have just been a spin. I don't think there's anything more to worry about there. Let's look back towards these two. Again, Mars and K5 battling really hard with Wide Vader here. Towards Wide Vader now in second. Bram continuing to take advantage of this battle behind him. Almost 7 seconds ahead of anyone else. And I think Bram is someone who we'll see in T1 sooner than later. The hugely dominant performance. Here's Mars with this battery. Should be able to get by him pretty easy. But Wide Vader does a pretty good job of defending. A little bit of contact, wheel-to-wheel contact there between Wide Vader and Mars. I don't think there was any damage, just a little bit of a touch. But it did push Vader a little bit wide. No pun intended. It did push him a little bit wide. And now Mars is ahead. Makes a move far to the left to defend. And again, wheel-to-wheel around this turn. Oh, and then more contact. Oh, a little bit of a late move over to the right by Mars. I'm not sure if he knew Wide Vader was still there. I think he thought he might have had a little bit of space, but the two excuse me, the two drivers do a good job of keeping their cars on track and not resulting in that being a crash for either of them. That was the way that was looking. I really thought Mars was about to get spun off track there. Make that 12 seconds of penalties for Robot. I don't even know if Robot's racing on the same track as us today. Seems to be making a new track out there. That must have at least over 12 warnings already. 12 laps into this race. Got 4 time penalties. Alright, so now K5 is making a move on Wide Vader. A very good exit for K5, and he gets by him quick. Can he make a double overtake on this straight? He can. Great move by K5. A great exit. And Mars, trying to get a little bit aggressive, goes off track. And that's going to cost him, I think. He's staying off track still at the moment. And it's Comic who's now gotten in front of Wide Vader. I missed Comic getting that close. We did see him about a second behind, but I did not realize he was in a position to get by Wide Vader. So many cars side to side. There's 2 different wheel-to-wheel battles here that we're seeing in the middle of the pack. This is really exciting racing. It's now Mars and K5 battling up for second. Mars gets ahead. This is quite a battle we're seeing here, folks. If it wasn't for Comic having this penalty, he'd be right in the mix too, but plenty of laps for these other drivers to get a penalty as well. It's not over for Comic, that's for sure. But what a battle we are seeing here. Between these 4 of Mars, K5, Wide Vader, and Comic. Comic the only one with a penalty. All drivers on 12-lap old medium tires. Who's going to be the first one to pit? Mars again going wide in turn 1. We've seen him go wide there a couple times now. But nothing that's resulted in a penalty, so carrying on. So Comic dropping back a little bit from Wide Vader here. Is Bran, who continues to increase his gap. That's gonna win this race by 30 seconds the way this is going. And it is Comic who's the first one to pit. It can be a tricky pit lane here. We have seen some speeding penalties. I got one myself yesterday. Not the easiest place to slow down in time while at the same time not giving up a significant amount of time. And he goes on the hards. So interesting enough, we see Comic go on the hards. With just 18 laps to go, I thought maybe we'd see... Maybe we'd see a medium to soft, but that's not what we're seeing. We're not seeing that from Big Melt either. Okay, so we are seeing a medium to hard. I guess that does make sense if you're pitting on lap 15. The softs aren't going to go more than that, but... Or the mediums, I should say, but maybe we'd see about like 17 to 18 laps of the mediums and then maybe some softs after that, but... That appear to be the case. No safety cars or anything, so the strategies are a bit different than what we saw yesterday. In a race that we saw a couple safety cars come out. So at the moment we have 5 medium runners and 4 hard runners. There's 4 hard runners of all pit. You see a much wider gap between these cars now. None of these guys staying out. So I wonder if we are going to see some medium to soft runners at the front here, I should say. Because I think if you were going to go for the hards, you'd do it sooner than later. You would have done it already, I think. So, the longer this race goes on, the less effective switching to those hards will be. We'll see. Rams just continues to be on another planet. Way ahead of everyone else. Robot's just chilling in the back. He's having a good old time. Big Melt, he can get his binoculars out. He couldn't see anybody in either direction, behind or in front of him. He's just no man's land right now. Comic, just sitting by himself. Strielka, who again we saw towards the front of the grid earlier, had a big spin to turn 1, sitting back in 6th. Texan's just doing his thing, quietly in 5th. But these are the 4. Or the 3 now, and we've been watching most of this race. It's K5. Oh, fakes a move into the pits. Doesn't get Mars to bite though. He got me to bite a little bit. I thought he was going, I'll be honest. But K5 stays out, as does Mars and Vader. I really think we're going to see these guys do a bit of an alternate strategy to what we're seeing towards the back of the grid. I think we're going to see some medium to soft guys here. But we now see a 3-second from Mars. We saw a bit of a snap there. Lost the rear. And it's just enough to pull him off track. So a 3-second from Mars and another snap there. So Mars is starting to struggle now a bit. Oh, man. So the juke move by K5 maybe didn't work in the moment, but is paying off for him as after staying out, Mars has a couple little incidents and gets a 3-second penalty as well. So K5 the advantage. First second as it stands. I think we're going to start to see some people come in here. Let's see some. Let's watch some Mars perspective. Let's see what K5 does. No hit for him. Nothing. So these guys are all staying out. At this rate, you're definitely going to hop on their softs. When they do. So I'm just going to hop away for a moment. Actually, I'm going to wait. I have to run just for a moment. But I do want to see first where these people pit. I want to wait until they pit to duck out for the second that I have to duck out for. It's only going to be for about a lap. But I do want to see them come in before we do that. I don't want to miss the pit strategy here. I think all 3 of these guys are going to come in at the same exact time, but just never know. I thought maybe one of them would go for an undercut, but it doesn't appear that that's happening right now. I haven't seen a lot of track limit warnings either. It's going to be tough for Mars. If these other drivers around him don't get penalties, it's going to be really tough for him. At least grab a podium position. Looks like his spot in the top 5 is secured, barring a safety car, but beyond that, we'll see. Alright, so as they come around, turn 14 and 15, onto the straight, let's see. I'm expecting this to be the lap that we see some guys come in. Does look like K5's going, so K5, no, another fake out by K5, so K5 is not going in. Neither is Wide Vader or Mars. Alright, so I'm going to run for a second. I will be right back, but let's first see Mars, who does make a move on K5, and despite that 3-second penalty, is currently sitting in 2nd place. Alright, I have to run for 1 second. I will be right back, but it is Mars who makes a move for 2nd. Right before we go, I'll be right back. I think we're going to see a pit very soon. Alright, so as we are back and we return, it looks like Wide Vader is the first person to pit out of those 3 drivers. Bram is pit as well, but Mars and K5 have stayed out. Alright, they continue to battle. Again, Mars with a 3-second penalty, but K5 can use that to his advantage as long as he doesn't get a penalty himself. You know, him falling behind Mars here doesn't really matter. And, yep, we see Bram and Wide Vader go into those softs. Bram with plenty of clean air coming out of the pits. Nothing for him to worry about. The only thing Wide Vader's got to worry about is where he is going to come out on the track compared to Mars and K5. Is that undercut going to work for him? Let's see. They lap, looks like K5 and Mars just lapped Robot. Robot doing a good job of staying out of the way. So now it's Mars' turn to either come in or juke out K5. Let's see what he does. Honestly, I think at this point you better come in or else you're definitely going to get undercut by Wide Vader. This is a track. The track position it's really all about track position. And a late move for Mars. He does come in, as does K5. They both make a late move into the thing. Neither of them get speeding. So good job by them. Let's see how their pit crew does. Nice quick stop for the Red Bull. Nice quick stop for the Mercedes. But the Mercedes comes out just behind. And where is Wide Vader? Wide Vader's just coming around the last turn, whereas he's going to come out behind, I think, the Red Bull and the Mercedes. Let's see. Will the undercut work? Here comes Haas down the straight. The Red Bull and the Mercedes are just coming out as well. Wide Vader comes out just behind them. Oh, it just doesn't work. Oh, just about. Oh, a couple tenths. So the undercut does not pay off for Wide Vader. It was very close, and he gets a 3-second penalty now, too. So a massive mistake from Wide Vader. Not only not being able to get out in front of them with the undercut, but a 3-second time penalty once they hopped out in front of him as well. So a crucial mistake there. Another 3-second for Robot. Robot, I love you, buddy, but what's going on? 21 seconds of penalties. You're gonna get DNF. You're gonna get like DSQ'd. Anyway. Alright, so we got all these soft runners. And then the 2 hard runners of Strielka and Comic. I mean, these guys don't have to pit, but the soft runners behind them are going to be so much quicker. But it'll be interesting to see if Comic, like how much Comic can hold on, because there's only 11 laps. He's got Strielka to slow down the cars behind him a little bit, but man, I don't know. It's interesting from Comic. I think Comic has a chance for a podium here, but let's see how these next few laps work themselves out. Alright, so again at those penalties. So everyone's got any of the ones we see with the 3-second a penalty, I should say, has 3 seconds with the exception of Robot. But he's on the back of the grid, doesn't really matter. 21 seconds, holy cow. I mean, you could put Robot in first with those penalties. He's still gonna finish last. Jesus. Yeah, so Bram, 12 seconds in front of anyone else. Absolutely dominant. From the start, from quali, through the sprint, and through 23 laps of this race so far. This K5 was now in a great position right behind Strielka, and he's on the better tire. So he should get by him pretty easy, and he does. Strielka's not going to do much of a defense, I don't think, there. And you know what? Fair play by Strielka. He let his teammate Mars by pretty easily as well. He could have held him up without pretty easily there, but good job by him to get out of the way. Again, defending on those hard tires wouldn't have done him much good, so. Now it's all about if Comic can stay in front of these two guys. I'm really not sure he can, but he has a chance to do so. On those hard tires, it's not going to be easy, especially since they're already 8 laps old. And we do see another yellow. It's a Red Bull. It's Strielka. Strielka has another incident on those 13-lap old tires. He has retired, it looks like, on track. His car is off track. Okay, his car is off track. But Strielka, another DNF. I hate to say it, but we have seen that many times from him. The yellow, no safety car. The yellow flag has been put away. So carry on. We're left with just 8 drivers to go and 9 laps until this race ends. And I have to say, I think Comic might be pulling off a strategy masterclass, because right now he's only continuing to gain on those cars behind him of K5 and Mars. And we only have 9 laps to go here, and he's almost 14 seconds ahead. Another yellow. It looks like now it's Robot who was off. And that same spot that Strielka went off. But Robot carries on. Props to him for just carrying on. I don't know. He's just carrying on. He's just going. So, there he goes. It's Comic who continues to increase that lead in P2. I am shocked. But it's got to be the battling of K5 and Mars here. They're doing themselves absolutely no favors. Oh, I'm an idiot. I'm a fucking idiot. K5 is right behind Comic. I thought Comic was fucking 14. I'm an idiot. Comic is getting... Never mind. Comic ain't finishing second. I thought he was 14. I'm an idiot. He's only a 10th in front of K5. He's done. Alright. So Comic is not pulling off a masterclass. He's simply getting passed by both Mars. I'm an idiot. I thought he was 14 seconds in front of Comic. I'm simply just stupid and was looking at the wrong thing. Alright, so K5, that hard runner, again, drops into 4th. I'm an idiot. I don't know what I was looking at. But it's Mars and K5 who are now in 2nd and 3rd. I thought Comic was 13 seconds in front of those two. But in reality, he was about 2. I'm an idiot. Another yellow, and Robot again in the same spot. He is now backed out in... Oh, he's... Okay. Oh, he comes out on track right in front of a Haas. That probably wasn't the smartest one. Alright, we're just going to act like we didn't see that. As we go back to the front of the grid, where I was an idiot and thought Comic was about 20 seconds in front of where he actually was. So... It is K5, who is behind Mars and has the advantage of no penalty. Let's see. Is he going to make a push here? Oh! Bails out of the move at the very last second. I thought we were about to see those two come together. But K5 backs out at the last second. I don't know why. I continue to wonder why the fuck I thought Comic was 16 seconds ahead. Whatever. But he is holding on to 4th. You know, this is to say he's doing a bad job. He's doing great. He's doing fine. But it's Wide Vader, who's definitely fallen off a little bit from where he was earlier. He was up with K5 and Mars earlier, but hasn't been able to stick with them as this race is carried on. Just 7 laps to go. Ram could probably pit again and still win this race. Not really, but almost. He's just absolutely killing it today. He's about 3 turns in front of everyone else. Continues to put in great lap times. Let's see, K5 does not have the battery advantage against Mars. We saw him doing a better job of managing that battery earlier. But it's still enough to get him past Mars with the DRS. Ooh, another 3 second from Comic. That's not good. He now has 6 seconds of penalties. That's going to help Wide Vader for sure. Oh, it's really going to help his Fexen as well. Again, Fexen quietly sitting in 6th place, but with the penalties that are on the board, Fexen could be putting himself in a really good position here. Fexen, I believe, is sitting in 4th as it stands. So let's see if he can keep that up. It's Mars now sitting behind K5, so if we see K5 get past Mars. But now Mars, with a lot more battery, is he going to be able to get past K5? Let's see. That view sucked. That view sucked. The broadcast view sucks at this track. Anyway. I mean, like, this angle stinks. That angle's alright. So we need something, like, higher in the air. Anyway. Carrying on. That second DRS zone a little too far back to make a move. Mars stays right very close to K5. Ooh, sorry, I muted my mic there for a second. I didn't even realize. Okay. So, not much going on at the moment. I have to say there's a pretty big gap between everybody. The dog just came over here to start watching the race, so hello, Phoebe. Oh, she also ripped another nasty part. Phoebe, you're killing me. Alright, and we're looking on board with Mars, who again is in a tough spot with that 3-second penalty to get past K5 here. Let's look at those position changes. Goodbye, Comic. Up a couple spots. And really, Mars and K5 is the only battle here, but that 3-second penalty kind of takes away from it, unfortunately. So unless we see K5 commit a penalty here, at the moment I'm not seeing a lot on track that's going to change. The only thing I'm really seeing is Fexen, who has no penalties, and he has Wide Vader in front of him with 3, and Comic with 6. So Fexen we could see move up all the way to 4th, which would be quietly a very good race from Fexen. Why every time I look at Fexen, there's an overtake with these guys K5 and Mars. I swear when I'm watching them, nothing happens, and then when I look at Fexen, everything happens. So, it's now Mars back in front of K5, I'm sorry, I should say. They're both on those 9-lap-old softs. They put it at the same time. And again, Mars, who had that snap, lost the rear end that caused that 3-second. That might just be a big decider in the final results of this race. Graham continues to increase his lead. Not much for him to worry about. Let's see, K5 now with that DRS. think he should be able to get by him pretty quick. He does. Mars wouldn't be the worst idea to try to battle K5 a little bit. Maybe try to force the fact a little bit, get him to get a 3-second penalty. You obviously want to keep it clean, but battling K5 and forcing him to make a mistake might not be Mars's worst plan. Oh, and he locks up! He locks up into that deep turn, that big braking zone, but he somehow still stays ahead for K5. Wonder if there was a little bit of contact there between the two drivers. It looked like maybe Mars just locked up on his own, but maybe not. Very close between the two. And almost making contact. K5 right on the gearbox of Mars, not making it easy for him. Still being aggressive despite having the advantage of the penalty to Mars. Still absolutely in the fight. Let me tell you, Fexen is not that far off of getting a podium position. He's really not. I don't know if he's going to have the pace to do it, but he's not. He's really not that far off. Bram gets a 3-second penalty, but at this point, it really doesn't matter. He's so far ahead. K5 makes that move on Mars. I have to give these two guys props. They've battled for pretty much the entirety of this race. They've done a very good job of keeping things clean. We saw K5 maybe lose focus a little bit there, dip the tire into the grass. But Fexen, I'm telling you, Fexen is like within a second. Oh no, he's still got a little bit more time. Never mind. I thought he was a little bit closer to Mars for third, but Mars would have to get another penalty for sure. And look at that fastest lap time from Bram, a full second quicker than anyone else on the track. Bram's just been in a league of his own this entire day. So let's see as we start the last lap. We see Mars making a move on K5 at least. Oh, wheel to wheel! Those two drivers are really going at it to the very end here. Mars is not giving up. Oh, and he loses the rear again a little bit on this turn. Oh, and another big snap for Mars. Oh my gosh, I don't know how he saved it and kept it together, but he does. He keeps it moving. Comic is... Mars has got to watch out for Comic behind. Oh, I don't think he really does though, because Comic's got an extra 3 seconds. So as we see these two battle, it's Bram who's coming across the last few turns. And it will be Bram Bergsma, the Haas driver, who will win the Portuguese Grand Prix. He is your pole winner, your sprint winner, and your Grand Prix winner. Bram Bergsma with the Portuguese Grand Prix win. Mars provisionally will come across the line in second, but with that penalty, will finish third. As he comes across the line, with K5 right behind him, followed by Comic, followed by Wide Vader, and Fexen. Let's see where Fexen finishes with those penalties. Fexen finishes... Oh no, Fexen... What happened? Fexen is ghosted. So Fexen is not going to be able to take advantage. I don't know, did he run out of fuel? Did he disconnect? What happened? Oh, Robot comes across the line in style. Great. You know, she's my driver of the day. Robot, I think it's my driver of the day. He just... What a performer. I don't know what happened with Fexen. He was in a position to move up an extra couple spots, take advantage of those penalties, and then for some reason it just... I don't know what happened there. But that is your race. Bram is your winner. just as we predicted. So Bram is your winner. By far the strongest driver we saw all weekend. Start to finish. So let's see the sprint. Let me capture all this. So this is your sprint results. And these are your race results. Bram is your winner, followed by K5 and Mars. Wide Vader in fourth, followed by Comic, Fexen, Big Melt, and Robot. Strielka did not finish this race, so he will finish last in ninth. Oh, Fexen ran out of fuel. Fexen, you definitely had a chance to finish in fourth place with those penalties, so that is tough. But you did you did cross the line. You still managed to get across the line and finish in a very respectable sixth place. So I don't think there's anything to be embarrassed about for sure. But that is unfortunate. I think you definitely had a chance, more than a chance, to finish in fourth. But a pretty good race today. Portugal is just one of those tracks that really, there are two overtaking spots, but we haven't seen a ton of overtakes with these first two races. But all things considered, I think that was a pretty good race. A very good job by Bram. I think that is a race that will definitely get him some serious consideration for D1 for this next season. And a great job by everyone today. I think I really only saw one incident out there, one major incident. So a great job of everyone for keeping it clean today. Not a lot of drivers on the grid, but for those who were out there, I think everyone did a very good job, and everyone should be pretty happy with how they raced today. So I hope anyone watching who was here today enjoyed that. And we are going to close out this this race again. So that was your D2 race, and I hope everybody enjoyed it. And will join us next week and join us tomorrow. Tomorrow we have our D1 race here in Portugal, and followed, I believe, by all three divisions racing in Austria next week. But again, thank you very much for joining today. If you are here, another week of HDR D2 racing, and congratulations to Bram Bergsma, who wins the Portuguese Sprint Race and Grand Prix.